Bonjour, investigators. Je m'appelle Michelle. And voici Mademoiselle Casey Pyne in a wig of hair. That's all the French I know. How are you, Casey?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Mike. Trying to keep it entertaining, seeing as you always have all the fun.
Oh, all right. So people may wear wigs to come on this show. That's fine. I'm all for that sort of thing. Well done, Casey. That's very brave of you. What have you got for us today?
I have something to help you with your online investigations, which also transfers across to surveillance. Well, surveillance where I learned it, and desktop investigations is where I continue this tip. So
fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to that. You've got to rush off early today, so we'll try and get to you very quickly. G'day, Renee. Great to see you.
Hi, Renee.
We're the Friday afternoon program for investigators. That's people who like to interview people and take statements and write reports. We are really fun people. Today on this program, a licensed private investigator in Queensland has uploaded images of 48 regulatory compliance people who work for 3 different local councils. I'll be telling you all about the guts of that later on today, something to look forward to. We'll be back after our little intro, which we have to play each week, if I can find it. Okay, if you've noticed recently, each week I'm giving you real examples of private investigation work. Last week it was about unguarded machinery and couplings, and this week it's about interviewing people and planning your interview. So it came out last week in the news that the person in charge of the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, Mike Phelan, has found out that bodies have a code of practice where they don't speak to police. And this sometimes hampers investigations. Well, I don't know how he got his job. He might be a very young person, but he found that out last week, and it's something the rest of Australia has been living with ever since there was motorcycles. So let's have a look at the typical situation. I don't want your answer in the chat just yet. We'll leave it till later. I want to know if you're private investigator of the week. What would you do in this bikie situation? So 2 bikies leave the bikie club. They're riding along on their Harley, and they get to the traffic lights, and one of them falls off and drops dead. The police arrive and come to the scene, and basically they say to the first bikie who's still alive, "Mate, what happened?" And the bikie's reply was, "Stuff off, I'm not talking to you, pigs." So basically that's what his reply was. So the poor old police officer, he's got 1 live bikie, 1 dead bikie, traffic lights. He thinks, well, it must have been an assault, so I'm going to charge you with assault, mate. So this guy goes off to remand for however long that's going to take. But there's one big problem. A person has died in a CTP liability accident. The only witness isn't speaking to the police, and that deceased person has a dependent wife with 5 children and no job. Her husband was the main income earner, and he's now deceased. And she's very upset. Not happy at all. The one witness will not cooperate with police, so she can put in a CTP liability claim and claim the $75,000 that was due to her for her husband's death on an insured motorcycle on a road in New South Wales. You're the investigator, people. What are you going to do in this situation? How are you going to help that upset lady win her claim? The bikies won't talk to the cops. Not at all. You've just got this through your case management system, this inquiry to do, and you're up against a brick wall. Think about your answer before we finish today. What solutions have you got? You can put them in the chat when you think about it. How are you going to move that one forward and finish it off? You are watching episode 147 of SpyCurious, the weekly program for licensed private investigators for the news, what's happening, all that sort of thing. So this week we've got some great jobs. This one is from Lewis Wanstall and Associates down in Melbourne. This is a brand new one. They had one a couple of weeks ago, but now they're looking for community services investigators, full-time and casual positions in Melbourne. Great place to work for, one of the most respected investigation agencies in Australia. So great opportunity down in Melbourne for community services, factual investigators that are really great investigation agency that's really reputable, really well respected. Speaking of that, Quantum Corp are looking for factual investigators in Sydney. So that's happening there. LKA are looking for factual investigator in Melbourne, and Clarity Investigations in Melbourne are looking for case manager of their investigations team. Now, this is a new one. It's an M&A Investigations in Sydney are looking for investigators, retail investigators. Now, if you don't know what they do, I'll explain about that next week when I've got more time. But this is an M&A Investigations who we regularly advertise. This is a different one, and they specialise in retail areas. So they're looking for Melbourne and Sydney. They're based in Brisbane and they're based at Melbourne Airport as well. So there are a couple of the licensed private investigator jobs that are available. Austrac are looking for senior analyst and regulatory compliance person. You must have a certificate 4 in government investigation to apply for that job. If you haven't got a certificate 3 in investigative services, you can't be a licensed private investigator. If you haven't got a certificate 4 in government investigations, it's unlikely you're going to get any federal government position vacant. Think about that. So G. Hughes and Associates in Brisbane are looking for an investigator. And if you want to see those positions, you missed them, I went too fast, I talk a bit funny, you can watch the replay of all our Friday SpyCuriouses here on the Australian Security Academy YouTube page. So lots of videos there for you watch to see vacancies. Another vacancy that we've got currently is Pinkerton's down in Victoria. They have a vacancy for a factual investigator as well. So all those jobs are available. You can see them on our Facebook jobs page. Just type in Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation Jobs, and you must ask to join that Facebook page. I monitor that, and if you ask, I'll let you in. Okay, so that's where you see these jobs. And don't forget, yes, you can watch the replay tomorrow. So there are our jobs. Casey, what have you got for us this week?
Yeah, I have a tip of the week. This is more to do with desktop investigations or skip tracing and, well, you know, my favorite topic, OSINT. So let's just say, for example, that you've had a case come through and you have to find a lady called Casey Pyne. Now, this is the picture you're given. And this picture was taken at the beginning of 2020. So that lady, you have to find her. So you start with your Google Dorking, for example, and you find someone called Casey Pyne, and she's a licensed private investigator that does a show called SpyCurious every Friday with the Australian Security Academy. Now, I don't know about you, but hair doesn't grow that fast in such a short space of time. And they kind of maybe look like the same person, but you can't really tell. So, and you know hair doesn't grow that fast, so she could have extensions, but you don't know. So how do we tell just from looking at different profiles online who is who? And it's the same way that we do the exact same thing with surveillance, and that is to look for distinguishing markings. So say that you came across this photo by a hairdressing salon posted it because a girl came in and said, I've always wanted to shave my head. It's a bucket list thing. Let's do it. and they're excited and they post it to their Facebook page. And you see that as well as this photo, they posted this photo, which was the before. So this is Casey getting her hair chopped off. And as you can see from the picture, on Casey's left arm, it looks like there's a tattoo. So, okay, that's a distinguishing marking. Whoop, I'm clicking the wrong things. So how do we tell that this Casey is that Casey when you can't see the arms there? So, whoops, I keep moving the thing. I like to do good old desktop surveillance, and you sit there and you watch through enough video until you find what you're looking for. For example, here, that's Casey Pyne on the SpyCurious show. And as you can see on her left arm is that same distinguishing marking as the girl from the salon. So that is perfect. Bang, you've got a really strong marking that you can zoom in on and show the client that that is clearly the Casey Pyne that you were looking for. So people all the time change their appearance. And if you have, for example, a workers' compensation claim come across your desk, you know that those claims are quite old. Nothing happens really fast in the court system. So this claim might be a couple of years old. The person that you're looking for may have put on weight. They may have shaved their head or gotten hair extensions. They might be wearing a wig. You don't know. So you look, left arm, sorry, right arm. I don't even know my own tattoos. Distinguishing features. So what are some distinguishing features that you can look for? So we've got tattoos, we've got dimples, we've got birthmarks, piercings, scars, the melatonin differences that some people get in their face or their arms. And you just look for those things and see if you can find them and match them so that you know that that person that you're looking at is the same person. So the person from the workers' compensation profile that you have, the Instagram account that you have versus the Twitter account. They look like two completely different people in a very short space of time like this. They look like two completely different people. But how you can prove that that's the same person is finding those distinguishing features. And that is my tip for the day.
What's wrong with people with dimples, Casey?
Nothing.
Born with them, you can't get rid of them, and I'll never, ever get a tattoo as a distinguishing feature, because if you've had dimples all your life, people, you just suffer. It's something that only a mother could love. Now, if you enjoyed Casey's tip of the week, we've got a stack of them. It's the most popular thing we've ever done on this channel. We give away Casey's free tip of the week, so you don't have to look at SpyCurious replays and listen to me ranting and raving and not turning on my microphone and stuffing things up like this and going to the wrong thing and messing about and telling unfunny jokes. Write to me and say, hi, Mike, can I have Casey's OSINT tips? And all those links go directly straight to Casey's tip. So that's really important. Now, Casey told you to look for tattoos. I'm going to tell a girl later in this program with a tattoo on her right foot to go to her supervisor this afternoon, explain to him that she's been doxxed on Facebook and she wants something done about it. She will leave work at 10:30 tonight, a very rich lady, because she's got a tattoo on her right foot. Trust me. They'll want to sort that out before she lawyers up on Monday and it gets out of control. So stick around for that. That's coming up. Now, that's something really important that Casey just raised there in a desktop investigation. So we've got a licensed private investigator who's doxed 48 local government laws officers, and one of them had a tattoo on their right foot. Very distinguishing tattoo. So we'll talk about that later, and I'll come back to that. Casey,
yes.
You've just bought your third surveillance vehicle for the year.
I did.
Casey, how many new vehicles has your husband bought in the last 10 years?
2.
And you've bought 3 this year.
Yes.
Do you think that's some kind of imbalance?
Yes, well, I like cars and he doesn't mind. So, and I'm a surveillance operative, so
Okay.
I need them.
So are you going to road test it and review it for us next week?
I sure will.
Okay, all right. Will you wear a wig?
No, they're very itchy.
Just to be clear, people, when I go undercover and I shave my hair off, I am so scary looking. Seriously, I am so frighteningly scary looking. I don't have tattoos. Retail assistants will not serve me. They ignore me. They will not serve me in a shop. That's how frightening I am. So, Casey, you did a very good job of shaving your hair off like that. I really appreciate you coming in and giving up your time. I know you're busy. These are Casey's tips. If you write to me and say, "Hi, Mike, can we have Casey's OSINT tips, please?" in that Word document with the direct links to her tips, which are really good. And I think we've got to around about 22 or so at the moment. Now, 2 of them are interviews with people. That's industry related, nothing wrong with that. So, but all the rest are Casey's OSINT tips, which are a really popular thing. So keep that in mind. Thanks for dropping by, Casey. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, I've just got to do a couple of quick adjustments here now. And got to get rid of... Oh boy, got to learn how to operate this thing one day. Okay, investigators, handling sensitive information as a licensed private investigator. This is really important. If you are studying Certificate 4 in Government Investigation or Certificate 3 in Investigative Services at the Australian Security Academy, this is how it works. To win business, investigation agencies tender for contracts with various insurance companies or corporations or government departments or federal government departments, state government departments, local government departments, whatever. It does not matter. That's how they win business. Good day, Chris. How you going, mate? Good to see you. Hope everything's great down in Adelaide and you're going to have a great weekend, I'm sure. Good. Thanks for checking in, mate. So to win business, investigation agencies tender for things, and they will then employ you locally where you live to go and do those investigations. That's how it goes. Now, with all tenders, there are strict rules about the process. There's strict rules about confidentiality, and there's strict rules about what you can do and what you can't do, and insurances and timeframes and stuff like that. So here's a bit of an idea of a rule from the Fraser Coast Council. All right, so it's saying what tenderers can do and what they can't do. So it gives you a bit of an idea of that. And you can Google that, it's on their website. And here's one from the Brisbane City Council. Talks about the duration of the contract, the obligations, confidentiality and contact with the media, intellectual property, liability to the council, and also they've got in there when a contract can be terminated. So they are some of the things that you'll see in tenders. This one from another council is about disclosure of information. So they must have insurance, whoever wins the tender, if one of their people discloses confidential information and the council is sued for whatever reason, then the council will recover that money from the insurance of the supplier to the council. Now, it might be $500, it might be $5 million, but don't worry, the council will pay it and then they will recover it from the insurer of the supplier to the council. That's how it goes. And that's for building services. It's for supply of goods. So it might be pipes for plumbing on the roadside. It might be paint for marking the roads. It could be those little reflectors they put in the middle of the road to indicate where the fire hydrants are, whatever the council's involved in, whatever it procures. Councils procure training services for their regulatory compliance and local laws officers. Now, these people include animal control officers, building inspectors, electrical inspectors, plumbing inspectors, people that go around and deal with hoarders, people that have to go around on summer hot days and say to the local kids, hey, stop jumping off the bridge there. There's an old wharf under there, you'll get killed. They've got to do a whole lot of things with people that don't want to cooperate. They have a really tough time, council inspectors. They're dangerous dogs, escaped cattle. They've got all sorts of stuff to deal with. So they go out and they enforce local laws, make sure trucks aren't left running 24/7 in a residential street. And they're not popular people a lot of the time. So here's what's happened this week that's made life even harder for 3 councils in Queensland. Ooh. Gotta go back to the beginning. Didn't reset my slides. Okay, so a Queensland licensed private investigator working for a registered training organisation conducting training on behalf of 3 local government councils has uploaded social media images of approximately 48 class participants from those 3 councils, and he's put it on social media. It's not known who took the photos, it's not known where they were stored, and it's not known if permission was given to take those photos. Have you got that? I didn't say a good Queensland private investigator. I didn't say a capable Queensland private investigator. I didn't say a notorious one or anything. I just said Queensland private investigator. So he's gone and done that because he's a teacher in a government program that teaches government departments to take statements, to do the peace model, interviewing techniques or whatever. But in the process afterwards, to brag about it, he's put up on Facebook images of the students in the class. Senior staff of the RTO contracted to conduct the training were tagged in the uploaded image posts. They were informed of the action at the time. Now, they might be very comfortable. They might have permission from those 3 councils in writing to carte blanche, take photos of the council staff and load them up on social media. They may have. That's irrelevant. It's the fact that it was done is the issue. These aren't people raising money for a charity. They aren't people standing on the election booths helping out a politician to win an election. They aren't people mowing lawns for the elderly. These local laws compliance officers are enforcing compliance and have enemies. Now, if one of those enemies gets hold of an image of a local laws officer that they got an issue with, does a social media search and starts looking at their children and stuff like that, this is a no-go area that no council in Australia is going to accept anywhere. All councils have local laws officers, compliance enforcement officers, animal control officers, late rate payment officers, fines collection officers, and officers sometimes with emotionally difficult interaction with ratepayers and local area visitors and residents. So like I say, kids jumping off bridges and wharves, that sort of thing. Kids skateboarding where they shouldn't be skateboarding. Adults skateboarding where they shouldn't. Adults jumping off bridges. Hoarders, people littering, parking fines, all that sort of stuff. That's what these council inspectors were doing, and 48 of them were doxed on social media by this licensed private investigator who was a trainer for an RTO, and an RTO that had contracts with 3 local government agencies. Council's capacity built to ensure and protect the physical, mental safety of its compliance enforcement officers. What they do, the methods they use, is communicating service providers' expectations. Well, let's have a look at that. They all do it. So here's a really great example of communication of service providers' expectations from the Sunshine Coast City Council.
So the Sunshine Coast Council is continually improving performance. We're always looking at ways that we can do things better. We have a program of works that's about to commence, which is addressing safety culture. And there's a lot of thought and action being done in that sphere at the moment. We're looking at ourselves on the safety culture maturity model scale. You'll see that scale there. It runs from the lower level, the logical, who cares as long as we don't get caught, right through to the top, safety is the way we do business around here.
That's part of a 1.5 hour induction for people who want to tender with the Sunshine Coast City Council. They're serious about getting the best people. They might not just accept the lowest price, they want the best people with a safety focus. They don't want anyone winning a contract with them that's going to endanger their local laws officers by putting up images of them on social media from a class, whether there was consent or not. That would be a stupid thing to do. It's like putting up photos of tax collectors, police officers, detectives. You can't do it. It's dangerous to them. So they communicate service provider expectations. They have strict tender conditions on confidentiality. They have internal grievance policies and procedures. Now, in one of the photos, one of the images this guy put up on social media, you can see a lady staring right into the camera. She's got her local council shirt on. She is extremely uncomfortable. She knows whoever's behind that camera, man or woman taking that photo, is doing the wrong thing. She has been around this council inspector looking into that camera. She's focused, and if they try and cover this up across 48 people and 3 councils, she's the one that's going to come forward. She's one of them, because she knew that was the wrong thing to be doing in a class of innocent council inspectors who are only doing what they were told and being photographed and doxed on social media with their image when it was unprofessional and wrong to do it. You look straight into that lady's eyes when you see that photo. I'm not putting it up on here. I'm not making it worse for them, right? But you can tell she knows it's the wrong thing. There's a social media use policy and professional indemnity insurance coverage required for contracted suppliers. Now, suppliers, like I said, they supply the little reflectors that tell you where the hydrants are. They supply the gloves to the council, the face masks to the council, the training services to the council. So what would you do if you're a council and they'd say, oh, you've got to go to a course next Tuesday, be there at 9 o'clock. You're going to have to say, oh, I need 3 hours to get my hair and makeup done before I go to one of your courses, mate. That's the softest version. When these 3 councils train in the future, there's going to be 5 union representatives sitting in the back row with their arms crossed and tape recorders in their pocket and video cameras sitting next to them recording everything that happens. That is an industrial relations issue for 48 regulatory compliance officers that's led to this by the actions of one licensed private investigator. So what else do they do? Here's what they do at Toowoomba, and this is the girl with the tattoo on her right foot. The compromised position she was photographed in, you can't do it.
The Toowoomba Regional Council have a registration process for suppliers, and on their website they tell you all about what it is, where to go for links, how to find out information, what they adhere to. It's all there on their website. So they tell you about their processes and guidelines for tenders. They give you tips on winning tenders at the Toowoomba City Council. It's all very open, it's all very transparent, and everything you need to know will be there. Now, if you win a specific contract, there'll be details in that you would sign off on and must adhere to. The expectation is confidentiality at all times, and you must be insured for professional indemnity insurance in case there is an issue arising from what you do. Now, that issue could be anything. If you're the person that works at the Toowoomba City Council and you've got tattoo on your right foot, I'd go and talk to my supervisor right now about your photo that was uploaded onto social media by that private investigator. I reckon you'll be at work till 10:30 tonight, but when you leave, you'll have had a very comfortable offer from your workplace, which they will recover later on from the person that transgressed the tender contract.
Seriously, they will. Without any qualms whatsoever, they have a duty of care to protect the safety and welfare of the people they put through that course, and they didn't expect to be doxed by a licensed private investigator training in that class. 3 councils, 48 images. The service provider and the councils will need to identify what information, knowledge, skill, training, attitude gap was the common denominator and by who. Was it lack of planning? Was it lack of care? If you're going to introduce risk management into your workplace for your staff, you've got to monitor it. That's a basic fundamental of risk management, monitoring it. You don't just have all these rules for your tender and don't monitor them. Was there lack of checking? Was it overconfidence? Was it arrogance? Or has someone got some kind of addiction that led to slackness that led to that? Now, if there is an addiction and it's got something to do with images, that becomes scary. I'm not saying that. But why were 48 local council laws officers doxed across 3 councils on social media by a licensed private investigator? 3 councils now have to rebuild and move forward, winning back the confidence of their regulatory compliance and enforcement teams in regard to their safety. 3 mayors now have to answer some difficult questions in a highly politicised local government environment about an emotional issue that their political opponents are going to rehash leading up to the next election for years to come. That's 3 very angry mayors who, once they've watched this program, will be having a crisis meeting at the council at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. This is not good. The actions of one person has led to the problems for these 3 councils. So what else can crap out? Never, ever, in your role as a licensed private investigator, put a picture up on social media of a claimant. Never. It's been done in private investigator surveillance hate groups in Australia, and there have been consequences. Don't ever be tempted to do it. There are state government departments and council departments that watch this program. You would never do what this person's done. That person did it for a reason. We don't know why. The training contracts for any other councils right after this hits the media are going to be torn up, if not before, by the actions of one licensed private investigator. They have disclosure of information in their tender documents, and they tell you about that. You are forewarned of all this, and the principal of the organisation must alert the council the moment they become aware of it. Now, if the principal of the organisation that won that tender liked that social media post that doxed the council inspectors, local laws officers, debt collectors, parking attendants, that sort of thing, if they became aware and liked the post of all those people in class, one lady looking very uncomfortable, one lady with a tattoo on her right foot who is going to be quite financially well off come 10:30 tonight. Oh, she is. She'll have to sign a confidentiality agreement. She's not going to be happy when she sees the picture. Ladies have to prepare before they have their photo taken. You cannot take a rear photograph of a lady like that in that kind of position and put it on social media. That's frightening. It's scary. The tender documents will detail who is responsible for the actions of any agents that supply to the council. It's all there. You cannot say we didn't know. It's reckless. It's careless. And images, once they're on the internet, they're there for a very, very long time. So this is frightening news about a licensed private investigator in Queensland doxing 48 council, local laws officers and inspectors. Now, if you have been doxed and you want redress, tell your workplace, you can go to the Office of Fair Trading and you can speak to the Office of Fair Trading about that licensed private investigator. Now, that person will be given a fair hearing as to why he did that, and then he'll lose his private investigator licence. What other businesses is he involved in? The council is going to want to know. The mayor isn't going to accept, oh, this is what the tender people said and they're not training for us anymore. There's a whole lot more to this one. And it's in the state of Victoria. And it involves the International Security Training Academy and an arrangement they had with that licensed private investigator's business partner. And two regulators are looking at that now at a process that started 8 months ago. And when the council find out about that as well, and the mayor hears this and sees it from ASPA and the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division, you will hear the mayor screaming in the next local government area, which is pretty good because Toowoomba takes up 17% of Queensland. That's a loud reaction from a mayor. I wouldn't want to be in the room. So things are not good in regulatory compliance training in Queensland this week in relation to one, licensed private investigators' actions. Coming back to today and what we discussed earlier, our problem of the week this week, which I'm giving to everybody, each week we're going to talk about a new issue in the actual application of civil investigations. So let's have a look at our issue that I started off with. Two bikies have left the Outlaw Motorcycle Gang Club and they're riding along on the bike, stop at the lights, and one falls off dead. The police come to the scene because there's been an accident reported by other people in cars in the area, and they say to the bikie who's alive, what happened? Bikies don't talk to the police, and this was raised as an issue last week. Okay, I've got to bring it up again. Here we go. By Mike Phelan, who's in charge of the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, that bikies don't talk to police and it's a bit of a problem. And this goes all the way back to civil investigations and CTP liability. So one's fallen off and the police have said to the other one, what happened, mate? And he's basically said, I'm not talking to you, pigs. And that's it. So they arrest him, take him away because they think it's an assault. He's assaulted. They have no other version of what happened. So they immediately jump to a conclusion that one bikie killed another, because that's what they experience all the time. So that's what they did. Now, the problem they've got is the dead bikie, the deceased, he has a dependent. And that dependent has 5 children to her husband, and she hasn't got a job. And he was the only person working. He was a mechanic or whatever he was, plasterer, who knows. But she now has no income, 5 kids to support, because the progress of the investigation cannot go forward with the CTP liability because the police don't know what happened. What do you do if you face this in your CTP liability investigation? You must be able to think as an investigator. Not all investigators are dumb idiots that dox local council inspectors on social media. They're not. You must be an intelligent, solution-focused investigator. So what did they do in this case? They knew the lady had no income. They knew the lady was upset. They knew she had 5 dependent children. They knew nobody else cared about her. You're not going to get any support from the club where he was a member of, right? It's not going to happen. So they got a lady police officer to go and talk to the widow of the deceased. And over a long cup of tea, they discussed a strategy to go and talk to the living bikie who was there at the time, appeal to his humanitarian side and say, look, he was a friend of yours. You're the godfather of 3 of his kids. Let's get rid of all this, us bikies don't talk to pigs bullshit. Let's find out what happened so the widow can get the compensation she's entitled to. Will you give a verbal statement to the police so the CPT liability investigator can then come and speak to you, who is not a police officer, they're just a civil investigator, and arrange the report, the witness statements, and confirm what happened on a road, on a registered motorbike, by a licensed motorbike rider who is not at fault, so she can get her compensation. That is the solution that you must have in your toolbox to move these things forward. Private investigators look for the way in. They don't make excuses. Oh, the bikies don't talk to cops, they don't talk to us. This is too hard, give it to someone else. The client doesn't want to hear that. The client's paying for professional, reliable investigation services. The client wants to know that you did your very best to get it and that you did. And in doing so, that's job satisfaction. It's been a really tough week in the world of private investigations and its reputation in Queensland. It happens. There are rogue private investigators. There are rogue dentists. There are rogue doctors. There are 3 extremely upset local government mayors in Queensland seeking answers. There's not going to be any niceness in going through the who, what, where and why of this. And boy, when the lady with the tattoo sees her photo, not happy. The other thing that's important with all these is you get emotion out of it. A licensed private investigator doxed 48 council, local laws, officers and inspectors. No emotion in that. That's what he did. Their images can be researched on the internet forever. What other images were taken? Who approved that? I don't know. I guess only one person can answer that. I'm Mike Evans. I'm from the Australian Security Academy, and I'm going out in the usual way. And thank you for watching.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's my mission complete for this week. Feel sorry for the local council laws officers, internal review team who have to now go out and spend all weekend investigating this matter. And I will see you people next secret week.